All right, welcome back, everybody. Today is going to be a real simple one. I'm going to do one thing that somebody kind of, well, they just basically requested it now. I didn't actually have a video for today. I'm not going to lie, but this is one that I can definitely do. I'm going to teach you how to catch those guys in the summer. Alright guys, so welcome back, and welcome anybody that's new here. I actually just had somebody request an interesting thing. If I look like I'm tired, it's because I am. 3 hours of sleep. It's currently, I think, 12:30 at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. You guys will be seeing this in the morning. Hopefully it's uploaded in time. Otherwise, you'll still see it today. Sunday. This is Sunday's video. Anyways, we're going to try and help you guys target those guys in the summer. Walleye in the summer can be a pain in the butt. It took me years to learn how to do it. So, yeah, I'm going to give you some secrets and some stuff that's a little more unorthodox. There's many standard go-to ways that I'll show you, but I'm going to kind of stick around with the simple stuff and a couple of my neat little secretive ways of doing it that basically just work. All right, guys, so we're going to start off with one thing, and if you're a walleye guy and you fish, well, if you fish any kind of walleye any other time of the year, spring, winter, or fall, you'll kind of get an understanding that you can use plastics, you can use artificials. One of the go-tos I'm going to show you here, obviously I have a bag full of my walleye stuff, and I'll show you just one of them. I have a bunch of them. I don't need to show you each one. There's just a couple different go-to colors. These Authentic baits by Beefish and what is it? Beefish and Tackle. And this one is the 4-inch Moxie purple cracker chartreuse tail. It's like a firecracker color. I mean, if you know what it looks like a Shiner minnow or something like that, or natural forage. That on one of these right here, I'm going to kind of run through this pretty quick. I don't want to make this a very long video for you guys. I want it to be informative. I want you guys to go out and catch some fish. So, for instance, one of my favorites to do is, just a simple round head. This is actually JB Lure's Shiner head jig kit. But you stick one of these, or stick one of those on this. It's real simple. Rig it up, plain exposed hook, and you're gonna vertical jig it. Brake lines, weed edges, and anywhere in between. Flats, you can do it on flats too, but I have a better way of fishing flats. I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, well, slow down, I'm half asleep and I just took a bunch of caffeine so I could do this for you guys. Bear with me. Okay, so this on this either dragged on the bottom and hopped. So, well, I'll just kind of demonstrate with this. So, my hand's the bottom, and say you're fishing a brake line. In the summertime, water heats up. Walleye don't like hot water. They want it cool. But, this is a big but, because this can happen anywhere, and it's usually the first place I try to start. I work through a spectrum when I'm fishing for walleye. It's how you're supposed to do it. If you don't know what I'm talking about for spectrum, either shallow to deep or deep to shallow. The spectrum. So, this is the bottom. This is, say my wrist is the weed edge here. Or, yeah, no, we'll start there. So, weed edge or weeds here. A lot of times what I will do with that bait, that Authentics, is I'll cast it into the weeds and kind of jerk it out of them. And then once you clear the weeds, so that's where like having a good stiff, I would say medium action rod. I run 6-pound test when I'm fishing for walleyes, unless I'm somewhere where there's giants, and then I run 30-pound braid. But I always use like a 12 or a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, just because why not? But back to this is the weed line. So you hop it out and you get it to here. Now Obviously, when you fish a spot on a lake, this is for people obviously fishing from a boat. I will get to shore fishermen next. But if you're fishing from a boat, you work it out of the weed line. And you can do these things where you can twitch it, where it's like, you know, quick little hops. Or you can do like a drag, where you're dragging it along. Kind of looks like a leech then, I guess. Obviously, walleyes love leeches, but if you're, you know, big on artificial baits, it's real simple to use it this way. One thing that I've found, and it's kind of a crazy thing that I discovered at one point, was, so if you do what you would do with like a rip and wrap or a jig and wrap or any of those other things, if you've never used them, what you'll do is you'll rip them up real high. So say this is the bottom, you know, you get it 3-4 feet off the bottom, so you rip it up real high and let it fall on either a slack line or a tight line. So instead of letting a bunch of slack in your line, you stay tight and you work it till it hits bottom and then pull it forward and do it again. And a lot of times that fall right here is what'll trigger the bites. So these, in that combo, that method tends to work really well. Obviously, that's going to be like your shallower walleye, and it doesn't always happen that way, but it's a good place to start, because weed edge walleye and weed walleye, like weed flats, it's more of like a recent discovery. I've just kind of always done it because I didn't know any better for fishing deep yet, but walleye will stay in the weeds like bass all year round sometimes. So some lakes you can literally have weed walleye in deep walleye and they never cross. So these guys never go down here, these guys never come up here. Sorry, I'm trying to like weed edge, break line. You guys get the point. Okay, so that's the first technique, and that is just something, so with the authentics, it tends to work best in shallower water. You can fish it deep. So back to this thing here. We're going to use my arm as the bottom. It's the best way to demonstrate this for you guys. So now we can do this. So break line, flat. Say this is the weed line up here. This is a break line down to flat. Now, in the summertime, like I was saying, walleyes tend to try and stick with colder water. That's like the general rule of thumb. Sometimes they'll sit in the weeds the whole time, but a lot of times they like to sit wherever it's coolest. If the deepest spot in the lake's 15 feet, they're going to be in 15 feet of water. But what you're going to end up with is it's what you would call a highway, or like a high travel route, or it's like for you deer hunters, it's like a game trail. What you're going to end up with is, at the top of the flat is usually where your weeds grow. Then you have a break line. Sometimes you'll get them cruising here, and that's when you're getting them trolling and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just trying to get the most simple ways for you guys to start targeting summer walleye, and then you guys can kind of work your way around and figure it out from there. But all right, break line, bottom of the flat, and then this is the bottom of the break line here. So you can fish that jig and plastic up and down that break line, and a lot of times you'll find them in a transition phase. So like, you know, early mornings they'll be up here, but say it starts getting if it's light out by 5:30, by 7 o'clock they're here, by 8 o'clock they're here, and then if it keeps getting deeper way out over here, you know, if you're trying to fish for noon walleyes, then you say you have 20 feet of water and this bottom of the break is like 15 feet of water. At noon, they're in 20 feet of water and they're out chasing bait fish or whatever that's cruising around out there. So that's something you can do with those. The next thing I want to talk about is, so back to this, break line, then you have a flat. Almost all lakes have flats. What you're going to end up with is a bottom of break line and then like a basin, or like say you have like either a bowl or just a plain flat with break lines coming up off of it. It's all dependent on your lake. Some lakes are just really big, long, gradual flats, but there's usually an area where you find that it levels out or becomes so slow that, like, imagine like 150 feet, you know, you go up or down 6 to 10 inches. That's a flat. Same thing. On lakes like that, I actually have a box kind of dedicated to stuff like this, and you guys are going to be so many people are kind of surprised when I show them this stuff. This is my drop shot box. I have a video that's really old. I should probably do a new one so you guys get a better understanding of it, of tying one of these up. I usually have them pre-rigged if I'm going to be using them. Drop shot weight. These are, what are they called? Gamakatsu's walleye gap hook. It's one of my favorite, it just sits so perfectly on your line when you tie up a drop shot with it. I will try and link all of this stuff in the description. I always try to, so if you guys see this and you're looking to try and build your own rigs or use some of this stuff, I'll keep it linked in the description over the years here, just so you guys get an understanding of okay, if you get this and this and put it together, this is how you do it, whatever. Needless to say, so I'm not going to go into detail on how to build a drop shot right now, but when you're at the bottom of that brake line, basically you have this flat, right? So you have a big open expanse and you're trying to find fish. Two of the easiest ways to do this is you get your drop shot set up and you run, let's see if I have one. I have it in here so I don't have to get it out of the other thing. This is just a drop shot worm. I think it's a 4-inch. It looks like a little night crawler. This just happens to be the chartreuse color or whatever that I have. I have a couple different kinds like this, but you can nose hook this so it's cruising through the water column. The drop shot tends to be closer to the bottom, but if I'm doing this technique, which I'm going to tell you here in a second, I will actually run it 1.5 to 2 feet off the bottom. You have to kind of play with it. That's the biggest thing here, and you have to figure out your body of water that you're fishing. Not all water bodies are created equal. Okay, so back to this. This is the flat. You start here. So you start it up shallow in the morning. You work your way down the flat through the morning hours until you're at the bottom of the brake line. Now you can't find them. They're nowhere along the brake line. You're struggling. You get your drop shot rod out. This is technique number 1 for finding them on a big open body of water. It doesn't matter the size of the water. You can usually find the fish. You take your drop shot rod, and at the bottom of that brake line in your boat or canoe or a kayak, it doesn't matter because they're all mobile, you take it and you either drift with the wind. So this is where you learn how to fish with the wind. You learn how a lake lies. You learn the topography of the bottom of the lake, so you know the structure of the lake. These are all things you need to know in order to fish this way. But so you're trying to run the flat, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll zigzag along that brake line first to see if there's anything down there. But if you're going out across the flat, the easiest way to do it is literally drift, use a trolling motor, or even if you only have a big motor, say you only have like a 9-horse motor or something like that, you don't have a trolling motor, you don't have anything else special, you take and you give yourself some gas, point yourself in a direction, and what I like to do with my drop shot is cast at like a 45 ahead of me and just leave the bail open. I use my spin casting rods. Leave the bail open and let it just go to the bottom. When you see your line stop going out, click it, reel it tight, and then just hold on to it. So now what you're doing is it's mimicking a drift. You're getting your boat to move and you're mimicking a drift, and you can do that with any kind of motor, so it doesn't matter what you have. You can do it with paddles on a paddle. I used to have a canoe. This is how I actually learned how to do this, was in a rowing canoe. So you get yourself moving and you just drag bottom, but the key here is you want that sinker to stay dragging bottom. You're not trying to like hop it way up and down or nothing like that. You're not trying to impart crazy action. You're just trying to drift across the flat. So once you're going across the flat, your bait's staying off the bottom, and it looks like either a leech or worm or a minnow swimming across the flat. And if it's a mud flat and you have walleye, the only other thing you can look for is a transition from mud to sand, or vice versa, or rock to mud, whatever. Any kind of transition works. But if it's just a big mud flat you're searching, that's the easiest way to do it, is literally drop shot, get yourself going, once you're drifting along. Try, like, if you don't have GPS, which everybody should have something on their phones, but if you don't, just keep an eye on the shoreline. Aim yourself at a house on one side of the lake, go towards that house. Take yourself back across the lake if you're drifting, start over, go 20-30 yards down, do it again. Just keep doing that until you've basically grid lined. So house 1, house 2, pier, tree, stick, whatever, person fishing, and drift until you've covered that whole flat. And I promise, if there's walleye in that lake and that flat is where they're hanging out, so like say your flat goes from like 20 feet to like 15 feet, but it's 1,000 yards or whatever, it's super long, at some point you will contact fish. And the cool thing is if you learn how to do this appropriately, you can use this for many different species. It's just a matter of like what you put on the hook and how far off the bottom you go. But the drop shot method is one of my favorites for finding summertime walleyes, because even with no electronics, you can get some fish. All right, so like I said, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible for you guys. I've said this in many other videos. I actually have a slip bobber video that go into detail on how to set these up and what you should use them for. But if you fish walleye, you should have a slip bobber set up. I'm not going to go into a terrible amount of detail with it. It's fully adjustable. Fish it in the weeds, fish it on the break line, fish it at the top of the break line, fish it at the bottom of the break line, fish it on the flat. If you have like electronics, you can even drop it right on their head, drift away from them, let line out, and it's called sharpshooting walleye. I believe Aaron Weeb did a video on it, and a couple other YouTubers, I believe, have done videos on sharpshooting walleye. And it's a really good way of fishing them if you have electronics. But if you don't have electronics, it still works. You just got to figure out where the weeds are, where the break lines are. But yeah, that's not like something I need to go into a ton of detail on. Just go back through my Tackle Tip Tuesday videos and you'll find the full in-depth how to use a slip bobber and set one up. So, oh, the special thing. This is what I wanted to show you guys. Well, I don't know if I really want to show you guys, but it works. All right, so drop shot, jigging, what was it? Drop shot, jigging, and plastics. Obviously, leeches and night crawlers work for live bait, but if you're still trying to go artificial, well, we'll call this 50-50. You can do artificial or you can live bait, but these guys, I got a really good deal on these. These were all like 50 cents a piece or something like that at a blowout sale. These are big Slender spoons. And that's another video I have in my Tackle Tip Tuesday videos. If you guys aren't subscribed, well, just remember to subscribe if you're interested in more of these little how-to videos. I'm trying to help people with this channel. That's the gist of it. I want to help you guys catch more fish. But I have a Slender spoon video, but these guys are bigger. This is a 1/4 ounce Slender spoon, and so with these guys, you'd want to run these on like a big braid rod. You could use them on even a trolling rod. What can I use for a reference of size? Well, here's my hand for size. I don't have huge hands, but I mean, it's like 2.5 inches long. It's built like a, you know, it's got somewhat of a S curve to it with the way this is set up. You run a snap. What I do is I run a snap about I would have to say like a 15 to 20 inch leader. It kind of depends on actually where you're fishing and how you're fishing. So the point of the Slender spoon here is that it's a trolling bait, a drifting bait, and a casting bait. So you have all of these options with it, and people are gonna laugh because they're gonna be like, wow, I have. So we all ice fish. Well, a lot of people ice fish that have these Slender spoons. And you can use them in the wintertime, obviously, too. But that's why I bought them, because you can use them summer, fall, spring, and winter. So it's a multifaceted bait. But let me see if I have that thing laying around here. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little secret here so you can use plastics if you want. If you don't want to use any live bait at all. So this is a little long, but you get the idea. It's this simple. So I run, like I said, like 15-20 pound test fluorocarbon leader tied to a braid rod, and then I troll. You can obviously use just your regular trolling rods if you have trolling rods. If you have a kayak and a a Walmart rod or something of this, of similar, you can do this too. It's a little harder to get down if you don't have like one, electronics, two, a way to kind of maintain your speed. But so you hook a worm, and you can use artificial, but if you guys troll, you kind of get the gist of how this works. So because of the way this works against this, it swims very erratically. It does this kind of like loop this way, loop back around. It'll double over on itself. It'll flutter up and down. It looks like an erratic bait fish is what I want to say. But what I had found is you can do all of the above, like I said before. You can take this bait, you cast it out, and you do this retrieve where you reel extremely slowly, but you do like a countdown. So like 8 feet of water, you count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 till you hit like 6. So you have like 2 feet of clearance at the bottom, just so it doesn't, in case it sinks faster or whatever. It's very erratic. It's not consistent. But you snap it, reel it up, and then slowly crank it in, real slow. So you're trying to keep it like 2 feet off the bottom. This is the manual version of like using this without anything else. So you shore fishermen, get some of these. It's one of the best lures that I've come across. It's stupid because it's a spoon with a piece of tape on it and a treble hook, but it works. I would love to. I wish I had a video of it. I've been doing it for years, and the thing is I just haven't filmed a day like that. I do have that one Slender spoon video in my Tackle Tip Tuesday videos, so if you guys want kind of an idea of what you can do with it, that's the casting version of it. Okay, so like I said, you can put plastics on it. So like what I would do, this is how I would do it. This is too long for me, so there's this little fat section right here, like a regular night crawler. I would probably pinch it off right there. 2.5 inches, plenty long. You can obviously use this whole thing. That's 4.5 something inches long. Nose hook it right on the hook, and then, like I said, you're gonna run your braid setup with your snap, and then your inline swivel down the line. So you'll have, 2, 3 foot, 4 foot leader, depending on how you want to set it up. And now instead of casting it out, one of the things that I've found works really good, and this is because like I had a canoe and I was trying to cover water for walleye, is that same flat area. Now in the summertime you have I forgot what it's called, stratification. It's where your water ends up with an oxygen level in it. So like say you're in 20 feet of water, your thermocline, that's what it is. Your thermocline will set up somewhere between 5 feet and 15 feet down in 20 feet of water. So 5 feet off the bottom, 10 feet off the bottom, 15 feet off the bottom, somewhere in there. And that's where those fish will be cruising. So those fish will be cruising in there, and trollers, anybody who's trolled will kind of know what I'm talking about. But this is kind of where it takes a little bit of electronics, even basic ones. When you're traveling around the lake, if you're going slow and you start seeing bait fish at a certain depth, that's where you're trying to get this to. So it just depends on speed. You got to play with it. I'm not a master at this or anything like that. It's just something I've discovered works. But that's where those walleye will be sitting. They'll be up off the bottom. Could be 5 feet off the bottom. Could be 10 feet off the bottom. Could be 8 feet off the bottom. Somewhere in there. The cool thing about this is because of its erratic motion, it covers, sometimes it seems like 3 feet, 3 feet of spectrum of the water column, and that makes it very, very useful when searching big bodies of water. So what you would do is 1, use the wind, 2, use a trolling motor. You could even use a big motor and do it like on a trolling setup with boards and all that stuff. I don't know how to use boards. I'm not going to lie and claim I do. I don't troll. I want to get into it. I'm going to learn it. And I'm going to help you guys once I learn it. But until then, use a trolling motor. And what I do is I'll cast it out and I'll see how it feels on the rod. But a big thing that you can do is cast it out, let it go to the bottom, snap it up off the bottom, and then do like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just, so that's 4 feet, 5, 6, that's 6 feet, and then drift very slowly with it. And when you're drifting, it does the most action at about mid-speed. I wouldn't know how fast I was going because I've never really clocked myself, but I wouldn't say more than like 1.5 to 2.5 miles an hour. So pretty slow. I know trolling at 2.5 is pretty fast, but that's something you can do to cover a ton of water. And yeah, if you're on a new body of water and it's summertime and you want to get those eyes to bite, you got to find them. And the only way to do that is really to cover water. One thing I will give you guys, I want to give you guys one good tip here. Okay, so we've gone over some of the best methods that I've found for looking for summertime walleyes. Now, like I said, the basics of this is going to be that you are looking for a specific kind of walleye. So the shallow, weedy walleyes, I will always almost throw slip bobbers at those because it's easier to pinpoint weed pockets. And that's where the fish do this thing where, say this is a weed pocket next to my head here. They sit in the weeds waiting to come out and strike things that come into the weed pocket. So a slip bobber is pinpoint, drop it right in there. Bait falls down into the weed pocket, stays in the weed pocket. The waves impart a little action on it. You catch the walleye. Now those are weed walleyes. Now you can do the same thing all the way up to the weed edge, and those are weed edge walleyes. Those are, I try and separate. Those are their own walleye. Now there's break line or transient, ones that move up and down the break line. Those ones are specifically targeted with jigging a minnow, jigging a worm, jigging a leech. You can slip bobber them, but that's where that Slender spoon I've discovered comes in handy. Is you can park yourself, so if you have a boat or a canoe or a kayak and you anchor right in the middle of the drop off or at the bottom of the drop off or at the top of the drop off, don't matter where you're at, you just have to know where you're at. You can either cast up the drop off with it, down the drop off with it, or parallel, and you can work that whole area with a Slender spoon and, like I said, either a leech on the end of it, a minnow, a night crawler, or the artificial. So you can use like a gulp minnow, you can use, there's a bunch of different worms, obviously. Whatever you feel like looks the best. Just think like a fish. If you have a hard time doing that, I'm sorry, I kind of think like a fish. Anyways, that's the easiest way to fish that area. I told you how to fish the flats. Now, if you're on a lake and you notice that the water temps, say you get water temps from somebody or you see them yourself, and they are really warm, so you're talking like 75 to 85 degrees, anywhere in that spectrum, go deep. So now you're talking anywhere from 20, well, I start at 15 on those lakes, 15 to 20 feet, down to 30 feet of water. And that's a big spectrum for you to search. But you can do all that same stuff I told you about the drop shot, the jig, and the Slender spoon. Give those 3 a try, and I promise you will catch walleye if there are walleye on a lake to be caught. It's all just a matter of how much do you want to try and catch them and how much time do you want to put into it. Alright guys, so that's going to conclude today's video. I threw this together really quick tonight. I still got to edit this, still got to upload it. Probably not going to go to sleep, so I hope you guys enjoyed what I got together for you guys. You guys, I'm going to say it one more time, you guys. Anyways, yeah, I'm like buzzing and tired at the same time, and it's just wild. Anyways, use it. Let me know if you guys do anything. Let me know if you want any other information. Leave any questions you might have in the comments below. Please Always leave questions. I'm always willing to answer them. I want to try and, like I said, the whole point of this is to help you guys catch some fish. So let's all catch some fish. Obviously, if you're not new here, you know what's up. But if you are new here, please just remember to